Hi everyone, this is Dr. Mephisto and welcome to the ride. We're here today in Toronto and the guest I'm getting is a very talented, multi-style dancer and entrepreneur. And I can't wait for you guys to discover her. Also, don't forget to subscribe, support us on patreon.com if you want to get access to a whole bunch of different content, bonus stories and everything. And enjoy. Let's go. Hello, Miranda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. All right. Let's do this. The belt first, okay?
Safety first.
All right. So, give me a quick intro for people who don't know you.
Quick intro. My name is Miranda Liverpool. I'm a dancer here in the city of Toronto. I've been a professional dancer for about 13 years now. I do styles varying from Brazilian Samba, Cuban Cabaret, West African, Contemporary. I kind of do a little bit of whatever you throw at me, really.
Yeah?
Yes.
That's the reputation I've heard of. Yeah, I usually ask this, but what was the beginning of your artistic path? Like, I like to take a step back, you know?
The beginning of my artistic path. I was 3 years old. No, I'm kidding. Well, I mean, I did dance all while I was growing up. All different forms, including gymnastics. I got my degree at Ryerson University for dance. And even then, it probably wasn't even until maybe my third year in university that I ever even really considered doing dance. Professionally, it was actually my mother who also always believed I belonged on the stage. And I always loved it. I just had a hard time knowing how I would make a career out of it. But yeah, by the time I left Ryerson, I was totally ready to give it a go for a little while.
So that's a professional path though, but when did you start dancing?
When did I start dancing?
Yeah.
Technically 3 years old.
Okay, there you go.
I started dance training when I was 11.
Okay.
Like, 3 years old, you run around with like scarves and stuff like that. I did artistic gymnastics for a little while, interrhythmic gymnastics, and I started my first jazz class was when I was 11.
Cool. Was it with someone that is still around, or you're not in contact with that person?
That I started class with?
Yeah.
I have them on Facebook. You gotta love Facebook. Those teachers, like, one of them opened up their own dance studio in Perry Sound, I believe they're in now. So they see on, like, my old teachers see on Facebook and things like that, and like pictures and videos and
yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
But you're from Toronto or
Mississauga?
Mississauga, okay. Cool. And what's your background?
My background, I am half Canadian, half Vincentian. That is St. Vincent, for those who don't know.
Sorry, can you repeat this?
St. Vincent, small island in the Caribbean.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. And so Ryerson. So about your dance career, like, tell me more about that. Like in terms of your path as a dancer, what kind of major thing you went through? Let's talk about more your dance.
Well, after university, I commuted to university for all 4 years from Mississauga. I moved to Toronto right after that, and about 4 months after I graduated, I started cruise ships, and I did 2 cruise ship contracts with Carnival Cruise Lines. Fabulous. It was my first time being out in the world. I had never really wanted to travel before that.
Why not?
I was a real homebody.
I see.
I really thought I was gonna be like married at 22 and
right,
popping out kids, and I just had no interest. And then I went on cruise ships, and it was my first time really being out there and seeing the world, and I absolutely fell in love. I fell in love with, I already loved being on stage, but I fell even more in love with being on stage, and I fell in love with traveling and
That's so
seeing
funny.
new places.
That's so funny what you said about you wanted to be married by 22. It seems to be like so far.
Oh my God. Yeah, you know, we sometimes have different views for our lives, and they turn out very, very differently.
Yeah.
But yeah, and after cruise ships, I came back to Toronto and settled, and I've been here ever since. And before then, I was always doing, you know, I was trained in jazz and ballet and modern and things like that. The cruise ship is very commercial jazz, which I absolutely love, and musical theater and all of that. I love it. And when I came back to the city, my career kind of took this turn, and I started getting into, the first company I joined was a Cuban company.
Okay.
And I started learning Tropicana style Cuban Cabaret dance, Afro-Cuban. From there, I met Adriana Uniziello, who you very much know. We did go to school together at Ryerson, but we weren't in the same year. We didn't know each other very well. From then we connected, and she was just starting her company, her Brazilian dance company. So I was in her very first show, and I've been dancing with her ever since until now. So I started learning Afro-Brazilian and then into Samba. From there, I met Roshanic Jabari and Louis Cheyenne, and I started learning West African dance. Within a couple of years, my entire career shifted, and before I knew it, most of what I was doing was very cultural based, a lot of African diasporic dances. So now you will catch me mostly doing Brazilian dance, Cuban, West African.
So what are the pros and cons when you compare it both?
Pros and cons. It's just what I'm known for now. I don't even know that I have a preference.
Yeah.
I love dance, and I've always been a person who loves variety. So I actually love when I get a chance to do different things instead of just being stuck in one rut, one laneway. But I do a lot of Samba, a lot of Cuban. But I have a really hard time saying this is my favorite. My being is just so very happy when I get to move.
I see.
And so when I get the chance to, if you were to plot me in a musical theater right now, I would be so happy. You know what I mean? But these days, you know, Samba and things like that tend to be my forte because it is what I do the most of.
So
pros and cons. In some ways, I feel like there aren't as many dancers probably in the city and surrounding cities who do that kind of dance. So I feel like the pool is a little smaller in terms of, you know, who you're picking from. But there also might not be, it is quite specialized, so there also might not be that much demand all the time for it as well.
Yeah.
Samba is getting bigger in the city and things like that.
But which makes you like a go-to person for all those styles, right? You got them all.
I got them all.
So, so you've been like a dancer, but what about, you have like a creative path on the top of this dancer career? Like you've been like, have you been teaching or choreographing? Or?
I teach sometimes. Normally when the companies that I dance for sometimes ask, hey, do you want to do a 4-week course, an 8-week course? I will do it. Doing has always been my passion. There are people who are super passionate about teaching, people who are super passionate about creating and doing choreography, people who are super passionate about performing. I am the third camp where I love performing. At the same time, whenever I do wind up teaching, I actually wind up really enjoying it, and I get great feedback. So while it doesn't happen all the time, when it does happen, it's always a really great experience. I discover new things about myself, new things about ways to show people things. I love the feedback that I get from students, and I always wind up having like a really great time. So I do think as the years go on, that will start to pick up and be a bigger part of what I do. And I actually am trying to start that now as well, but in more terms of not necessarily a regular class, but like different workshops that come up and things like that, which I'm trying to actually put on now in different places more abroad. And then choreography, never been my thing, to be completely honest. And I feel like that is sometimes that is a dispute that people get into about like whether or not you're a true artist if you aren't creating something of your own. I've had people say that to me, that you are not an artist if you are not creating something of your own. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it takes a lot of artistry you can take something that somebody has given you and put heart and soul and passion into it and put your own creativity in that to make that come alive and be something. And that's what I choose to do. Some people call that an interpreter, an artist, a performer. That's where my heart lies. Perhaps one day down the road I will wind up deciding I want to create something, but
yeah, what I mean, when you look at you know, okay, I'm stepping in zones that I don't really know, but I'm just telling that out an outsider. But when you look at ballet, for example, choreographers have been remaking the same ballet over and over. And they're not creating it, they're just adding something to it. So I guess that's going along with what you're saying. But still, you're creating something recently, like you've been launching your little vision. Can you tell me more about that?
Absolutely. So my vision is I really wanted to take my love of dance and my love of travel and put them together. So I had been thinking for a while and finally decided this year to try launching a retreat business that is focused on dance. So I'm launching my first one in March of next year, March of 2020, the 1st to the 8th in Costa Rica. And I will be teaching along with 5 other teachers that I connected with in Costa Rica. And so we're offering 6 days of dance, anywhere from 3 to 5 classes a day. And it's 9 different styles of dance, I believe, that we have.
Damn.
So it's an opportunity. Exactly. So whereas I feel like a lot of things that you go to tend to be very specialized in one area, which is totally amazing, and I've gone to those and I love them. This for me was something that I would be super interested in, and I was just hoping that there must be people out there as well where, like I said, I just love movement and I actually really love trying new things and trying new types of dance and movement. So for me, this is an opportunity for people who want to be able to go to a great place, a beautiful place, and be able to try different things. So we're offering obviously the things that I do: Samba, Latin dance, Afro dance. We have belly dance class, we have aerial silks, we have yoga, we have contemporary lyrical jazz. Really giving people like just a taste of all different things. And yeah, so it's not necessarily about professional dancers coming and being in an intensive.
Right. Yeah,
it's
that's
about
what
anybody being able to come, whether you're a beginner, whether you're intermediate, advanced. Because even if you're advanced in one, you've probably never tried at least one of the things that we offer. So it's just kind of a chance to be able to come and try different things, and at the same time, you know, have time to lay by the beach, hang out in a hammock.
And you guys are gonna organize stuff outside of the classes, or
they are available through the retreat venue.
Oh, I see.
So the retreat venue offers everything from horseback riding, surfing lessons, ATV rentals. There is one day there's also a shorter day, so that if anybody wants to take like a day excursion, they're able to do that as well.
It's like a vacation plus dance classes, right?
That'd be my dream vacation.
There you go, you did it for yourself, so it has to be good. So yeah, I used to have my teacher back home. We used to do those vacations as well. They used to go to like Morocco, and I used to I think the name was boot dance camp by the Serial Steppers. I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah, all the house dancers from France. Like, anyways, and
I have heard France is very big for retreats.
Yeah, salsa especially. I've heard of them. Never been to any retreat though. But yeah, they used to bring. You had like it was like soldier style. Like they were waking you up at 5 o'clock to do like running and then push-ups and like.
Okay. Yeah.
And then classes all day. At the end of the day, you had a jam and you had battles during the thing. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
I think this one will be slightly more.
Yeah.
Slightly
it's more
relaxed.
vacation.
Yeah. Class starts at 10:30. It's not quite that bad.
So I was gonna step back for a minute. You've been alongside with Adriana, but you also pretty tight with AC Mensa as well.
Yes. Throughout the years, I met AC, well over a decade ago, and it's funny. Sometimes lately we've been talking about how it's like we almost forgot like some of the things that we did first. Like she was like, "Oh my God, you were in that piece." I was like, "Yeah, I was." We met, over 10 years ago, doing somebody else's piece. And AC was like just starting out and starting to. I think I did her first choreo ball piece.
As
ever.
a choreographer or as a dancer?
As a dancer, with
okay.
Like she was a choreographer and she was putting on like an African style.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask like, was she the choreographer or
she was the choreographer? Yeah. And we didn't know each other very well, but we had met and she invited me to come along. And every now and then throughout the years, she's done a project and she has felt that I would be the right fit. And I would say over the past few years, we've started working together more and more. She's had me come in on different projects that she's doing. As you know, her career is doing very well. She continues to grow, and I feel very fortunate that she often sees me in some of these visions. So especially over the past 2 or 3 years, I've got to work with her a lot doing her creations for Shades. I just did Zayo this year with her as well. I could not be happier. I love her work. So
how did you guys meet?
We met doing a piece. There used to be a company, or maybe there still is, I don't even know, a company called DLM, I believe. Like a hip hop type company that existed way back when in the day. And we were both just there doing a piece with K.N. Ward, I believe, was choreographing like a holiday piece for this company. Anyways, we both were doing it, so that's how we met, just doing somebody else's choreography. I think we ran into each other on set again after that somewhere. And then I think the next time that I worked with her was she called me up and she was doing her first choreo ball piece, and it was African, and she wanted to know if I wanted to be a part of it.
So you work out of Toronto as well? Like do you travel a lot for your dancing?
When I'm very fortunate too. I've definitely had great experiences cruises, being able to do some travel. I'm literally back from Montreal as of yesterday, doing a singing tribute show. I was on tour last month in Montreal, Ottawa, Kingston, and Hearst with Louis Cheyenne Dance Company doing the West African. I've been to the Netherlands with Dance Migration, to Ecuador, Shanghai, different places in the States. I've definitely been very fortunate to have a few really great travel opportunities through work.
Cool. And who do you see as your biggest influence in your maybe teachers and on your dance path so far?
Biggest influences is
like dance teachers. Who you learn from, etc.
I would have to say the people that I still work with.
Okay.
Oh my God, there's just so many. I mean, obviously, I've learned so much from Adriana. In terms of like Samba has become such a big part of my life, and that's she has taught me so much. She's so passionate about the culture, so I've learned a lot from her. Lua, obviously, my biggest teacher for African dance, and also just in life. Like, that woman is so spiritually connected, so disciplined, so loving and care. Like, she is one of my closest friends in life. I feel so fortunate to have her, and I've just learned so much from her, not just about my dance, but just about how to kind of like tackle this life, to be completely honest. And outside of my regular teachers, I've had the opportunity to work with like some great teachers who get brought in from abroad and things like that. Los Angeles Silvestre is one that I've worked with a lot through Adriana. She is an amazing Brazilian woman, dancer, teacher, life guide as well, who also is somebody who I feel like has had some great words of wisdom throughout the years that I've worked with her. Honestly, I just feel like you get so much from everybody that you meet, which is another reason why I'm a really big advocate of going out there and trying different things and trying different teachers, because you will always get something new from somebody. Yeah. You'll always be able to take different things that you learn from one dance style and implement it into another one. Somebody will always have a way of saying something to you that makes a light bulb go off in your head. I actually find it really hard right now to be like, I just feel like there's so many people that I could list to be like, I learned this from them, I learned that from them.
So this retreat is kind of a way for you to give back?
A little bit. I would love for people to come to this and discover a love that they didn't know that they had, or conquer a fear that they always kind of wanted to try but always felt, I don't know, maybe a little awkward to go into a class. I hope I discover a love that I didn't even know. I've had a few, I hadn't thought about it in that way, but I've had a couple different teachers, either teachers from schools, like high schools, or teachers from like studios who have seen it and have talked to me about, oh, this would be really great, I'd love to be able to take a group of kids to go down. And I hadn't really thought about it in that way, but if that is something that this can turn into, I think it would be amazing, because same type of thing. I would love to have younger kids, or even just young adults and teens, coming in and getting the chance to try different things that maybe aren't in their area, or that they never thought about trying, discovering a new love of dance that they didn't know that they had.
Is that open to kids too?
The one that I've set up for March isn't open to kids, but we're now it's looking like I'm looking to expand to be able to have groups. So in that case, if it's like a group of kids coming, obviously with adults, or it might not be kids as in like 5 or 6, but like high school kids type thing.
That'd be a different ball game.
That's a completely different ball game. We could get there, but that would be something where I'd also love to be able to put on more local ones as well. The whole point is to kind of try to be able to get away a little bit out of your everyday, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in Costa Rica. It could be in, Muskoka or Blue Mountain, somewhere that's closer, but get people away for a weekend to be able to try a few different things, in which case that could definitely be something that's open to younger kids as well, coming with their families type thing.
I see. So, all right, let me start the harder questions.
There's harder questions. Oh, God.
So, what do you get out of dancing? Like, on a more deeper level?
What do I get out of dancing? Like, everything. It's really, like, it's so deeply embedded in me. Like for me, it's at times it's a form of therapy. Like, dance for me is like, it's what I do when I'm happy, and it's what I do when I'm upset. Like, it's a way that I can, if I'm completely overwhelmed with life, if things are going on that are super stressful, that are upsetting, it's actually a great way to get back into my body and kind of out of my head and be able to like regulate myself a little bit. So I find it just like a huge savior, beyond being, obviously when I am happy and there's music playing, I'm gonna be moving. There's no way that I can't be moving. I don't even need music half the time to be moving around. So it's kind of with me through all the times, through joy and through sorrow. Obviously, it's good for your body. But yeah, for me, I feel like it's necessary for my soul. It's like part of who I am. So what I get from it is literally life force, life energy.
I can drive too fast because you speak very low. I don't want the wind. So you said
my friends call me Mumbles. I will try to speak up.
Yeah, it's good because there's no engine noise, so it's not covering your voice too much. So you said it's like some sort of therapy, but what are you trying to fix?
What am I trying to fix? Aren't we all just trying to become the best versions of ourselves? I don't know that I'm trying to fix something with dance. It's just literally something that, ability-wise, it's something that I've been gifted with. And passion-wise, it's just something that has always been inside of me. So if there is ever anything that is bothering me, and trust me, there often is, it's not an easy life. But I'm just saying it's somewhere that I can go when things are difficult. It's somewhere that I can go and feel some peace or feel a release. If I'm stuck in my head, which I have a tendency to be, I'm somebody who can very easily get lost in my thoughts and overthinking. It's a great way to kind of get out of that and into my body, and kind of let some of that anxiety go.
Yeah.
Just be able to focus my energy in a different way.
Well, when I asked what are you trying to fix, it's just because you said you used the word therapy. That's why. So what do you find hard? What is the part where you said you see that you've been gifted with this, but what by gifted, so it means that there's certain things that comes easy for you, right? What do you find hard?
What do I find hard? The mental aspect of being in this industry can be very hard, because you put so much of yourself into it, and I'm certain that many artists in general can really relate to this. You put so much into your work that when things don't work out, or when you go to auditions and you don't make it through, and that happens a lot, or that sort of thing, it's very hard not to let it get to you.
Right.
And it's one of the reasons why I feel like a lot of people don't stay in this business for very, very long a lot of the times. I was very surprised sometimes it's very surprising to see how many people start in this and fall away very quickly, because it can be extremely hard on the psyche. You know what I mean? Like, you're a great dancer but you don't have the look, or you're a great dancer but we have 6 others who did it a little bit better, or you're just not the right height, or I went through the weight thing being a dancer. I've never been a tiny person, and in the dance industry that's also something that has been extremely prevalent throughout the years. It's something that gets talked about more and more, just like everything else, and I think it's becoming a lot more acceptable for all shapes and sizes to be in the industry. But it hasn't been easy, and I've had my share of sit-down talks, my share of problems with costumes that don't fit, my share of being put on Weight Watch during contracts.
Really?
And I am not a huge person, but in terms of what the dance aesthetic has often been, I am considered larger than others. And all of that, plays a toll. And I dealt with that same thing in gymnastics. So I was dealing with that from the age of about 8, of having weigh-ins and being like, she's too heavy. 8 years old,
Yeah, that's tough.
eating carrot sticks at school. So, that can those types of things I found very difficult. And then also just learning, you learn this as you get older, that unfortunately, whatever love you have of it, you also are given the body that you are given. And sometimes your body just doesn't do things. And so in terms of like, I would most likely never be a ballerina. There are just things that my body does not do. You know what I mean? And it takes you until you get older and you meet some of the right teachers to be like, you know what, your body just doesn't do that. And you need to learn to work with what you have. And my strong points have always been, I would guess, the performance aspect and what I can bring to stuff. I have a natural ability. My natural ability in certain things, it only takes me so far. When I am on stage, from what I've told and what I can feel, you know, my passion shines through. I can have a presence on stage, which has often sometimes outweighed if there are things that I can't do. I can't, you know, I don't have an extension up to my ear. My leg's not going to go there. I can kick it up there, but I can't hold it up there. You know, things like that. But you learn to deal with what you are given, and that is the great thing about maturing in this industry, is you learn to work with what you have. You learn what your strong parts are. Yeah, you learn what you can give, and you learn to accept the things that you don't have. But especially when you're younger, those things that you don't have, sometimes they plague you, and it's hard to accept that there are just some things that you weren't built to do.
So from what I hear, like the stuff that are hard for you have nothing to do with dance.
Yeah.
It's mostly like what's around it.
It's both.
What comes with the industry.
What comes with the industry, and then in terms of dance, what my body limitations are. So like I said, having crazy extensions.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, in terms of, you know, I don't have an amazing penche, a crazy arabesque. If you don't know these terms, then that doesn't necessarily mean anything to you. But just saying, despite my training, there are limitations to what my body allows me to do. I'm past that point where that's an issue for me,
right? Which
is great. But that was difficult in times to be able to accept that, like, I'm doing the training, why isn't this happening? Why can't my body do this? Why can't my body do that?
Does it generate some sort of like frustration to feel like you're not able to express yourself the way you are? Well, not really.
You mean with the body limitation?
Like with this, well, basically you have an intention. You want to dance, you want to perform, and then you have this gate guarded by a bunch of people who say, okay, you can't come in, you can't, and what's behind this gate is very, very much like you being able to express yourself. Like those people say, yeah, you can, you cannot. Does it build like a, well, it's a rhetorical question. It obviously has to build a frustration. You have to deal with it. But there are definitely times. There are times where you can give it your all, and you know, in an audition, for instance, and in your head you're like, I killed that, you know, and when the phone doesn't ring, you're kind of like, really? Or yeah, you
know, you see people getting these cool opportunities, people that you work with, you know, and you're kind of like, oh, why can't some of those things, you know, fall on me? Why aren't new people calling me? Why, you know, it can totally be frustrating.
And it never gave you, sorry,
okay.
It never gave you this frustration, maybe, you know, make yourself say, okay, maybe I gotta create my own shit with what I have. It feels like at some point when you get this kind of frustration, I'm talking out of like my own personality too, but everybody's different. But I see that a lot. Like I see a lot of dancers now, they just create their own stuff the way they want with their body, and they don't want to bend under the industry standards. And they create stuff that are amazing because they aren't bending. And I'm wondering at one point this switch happened, and if there's one, if you think it's gonna happen to you.
I have no idea. Yeah, I wonder that sometimes. One day I'm gonna wake up and I'm just suddenly gonna be like, I'm ready. I'm gonna put on my own show. Again, I haven't had that calling to me yet. I feel like when I've been super frustrated, I feel like most people where I've just been like, is it time to like, you know, is it time for a new life path type thing? You know, and in a way this retreat is a little bit of my own thing. It's my own baby to try and, you know, cultivate. It's just in a different way. It's not a show. It's, you know, it's just a different stream out of, you know, this pool of things, of talents, interests, and capabilities that I have. So it's just another, it's a branch off of things that I already have to take from. It just happens that it's not a show.
When I contacted you for this, first thing you said is, yeah, okay, I'll get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Are you?
Which is why I speak quietly. Yes, this is out of my comfort zone.
So the next question is, how long did it take from you having the idea of making this retreat to you implementing it?
I would say a good year, maybe a little. I would say about a year.
What stopped you from doing it right away?
I would just say life.
Yeah.
Dealing with other life things that had my attention.
Yeah, so it wasn't like you were not sure, but you're like, I don't have time.
I'm definitely not sure. I'm a very not sure person. I have definitely dealt with a lack of confidence in myself, which I have often thought could be the reason why I don't create my own stuff, which could be a reason why I've never been, you know, I definitely draw from that sometimes, knowing that I haven't grown up with as much confidence in myself as I probably would have been useful to be able to propel me even further. So yeah, sometimes I tend not to speak loudly or voice things or be the first to hop on camera to do something or what have you. I have met certain people like that along the way too, because it's very interesting to be somebody who does something that is actually very out there in the open for people, while also you yourself actually finding that you do tend to be somebody who can be shy, introverted, lack of confidence, but at the same time, like, what you do is like get on stage in front of people. I was gonna ask that. It's a very interesting juxtaposition that is it gets hard to understand as I meet other people in life who kind of deal with that. As I'm like, okay, there's more of us.
Oh, there's plenty.
There's plenty. There's
really plenty. Like, I see countless amount of dancers who are very good at performing, but when it comes to talk, and for me it's the same thing. And this was my therapy.
Ah, nice.
You know, I was terrified of speaking in front of people, and then this, you know, I said, okay, I need to do something about it. Because even in my career, at some point I'm gonna have to talk in front of people, and I needed to do something about it. Anyways, but yeah, I was gonna come back to what you said. You said that when you taught, you had a lot of great feedback and you learned a lot about yourself. What do you mean by that? What was different?
Well, I had great feedback. People really seemed to enjoy taking class with me. Like, I honestly, there'd be like, okay, so we'll see you next week, right? And I'd be like, oh no, I'm just like subbing for today or whatever. Like, oh, really? Like, when are your classes? When can I take your classes? Or just great feedback of, you know, whether people felt like they learned a lot or they appreciated the way I broke something down, whether or not I said something that resonated with them, they had fun in the class, they liked my energy. And that as well does great things for me to be able to be like, okay, you know, like, there is some merit here. Sometimes you know, I feel like when you're somebody who does sometimes have that little bit of lack of confidence, you're just like, somebody's gonna find out I'm a fraud or something like that.
Yeah.
And it just reminds me, like, I actually know what I'm doing. Like, I can actually do this. Yeah, as time goes on, as I do more things, as I meet people and add experiences into, you know, have different experiences, whether it's performing, teaching, all that kind of stuff. All of those things do help to build you up. And like, whenever you have these things that you're kind of like, ooh, am I going to be able to do that? And then it happens, it reminds you how capable you actually are.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the abilities that you actually have. You know, so I've been doing this for 13-ish years, and I'm kind of like, maybe I actually really know what I'm doing here. I
hope so.
I'm pretty good at this, actually.
Do you see yourself as competitive?
I think so, in a sense. I mean, that's a very good question. I mean, I definitely know that, like, I get competitive if you're going to play mini putt with me or something like that.
You're going to play what?
Mini putt with me, for darn sure.
What is that?
Mini putt, like miniature golf.
Oh, okay.
So yes, in games, I'm totally competitive, 100%. In my career, I don't feel that same competitiveness. I don't feel like, in a way, in terms of like dance and career. I definitely want the job. But I'm probably not going to smack talk you the way I would if we were playing Monopoly.
Do you think you need competitiveness in this industry if you want to survive?
That's a very good question. I kind of want to say no. I think you need to have a crap ton of discipline, drive, determination. You definitely have to have the will. But I guess maybe depending on what type of path you're choosing in this industry, I don't really necessarily know if I would say you need to be competitive. Like, especially if you're going to be out there creating your own thing.
All right, let me ask the question differently.
Maybe I'm thinking of competitive as the wrong word. I don't know.
Do you find that this industry is an industry, or like even a lifestyle, where people help each other a lot?
I think it depends on the person.
Outside of when you need people?
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
I think you'll meet both. I think you will definitely come across people who are just out there for themselves, and you will come across people who are definitely looking to give you a helping hand.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely an individual thing, because I have experienced both, so I feel like you will meet both in this industry.
Do you see yourself as a freestyler?
No.
No?
No, I don't. And that is probably my biggest place of discomfort. The word freestyle scares the crap out of me half the time. But I can. Like, if I'm in the zone and I'm doing what I love to do.
But it's not necessary.
But it's not what I have a hard time calling myself that.
Well, that's why I'm asking you why you get out of dance, because like from my perspective, there's only freestyle. Like, that's where I express myself, right? And that's something I've had this conversation many times with people who enjoy choreography a lot, and it's something where I like to talk about it because I don't get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't get it. I understand the arguments. It's just like, we just agree to disagree because it doesn't reflect what I feel, right? Yeah. But it's interesting. That's why I asked the question. Yeah.
Well, that's when you get into like interpretation necessarily. For instance, like, to me, it's like, I feel like you could give me 5 steps to do. And especially if I have the freedom to be like, here are your 5 steps, go do it in whatever way you want, in whatever timing, with whatever feeling, and you can do it to 6 different types of music and have a completely different experience doing it, as opposed to just go out there and do whatever comes to you, is a different experience in terms of one's not freestyle, one has been choreographed, but in a way it's also still freestyle if you go out there and you take that framework but then turn it into your own thing. So in a way, you could call it freestyle, I guess, in a way. And that's where, for me, the artistry comes in, and I love to be able to do that. I love for somebody to give me the framework and say, go make it into yours.
Right. So, well, okay, when I say freestyle, what are you thinking about?
When you say freestyle, I think about go out there and do whatever steps come to your...
So, but what context are you talking about? Are you talking about a class? Are you talking about an audition? Are you talking about when you go out?
I'm talking about whatever. Just if you tell me go freestyle, to me, I'm going out there with nothing prepared.
Yeah, but if I don't tell you anything and you want to dance, that's freestyle, right?
Yes, that is
Nobody
freestyle.
tells you anything. Okay, that's.
But I guess because I am a dancer, when you automatically go freestyle, to me, I'm thinking like, okay, it's like performance time, and I've got to like do something. You know, if I'm going out to dance at a club, to me, I'm not thinking about it. I'm just dancing. But if I'm in a dancer context, and it's like,
okay, but that's
okay, go do a freestyle.
Right.
To me,
okay.
That's what makes me go, ah.
Right. No. I'm not talking about that, because that makes me nervous too.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about, you know, you're alone in your kitchen and you just like express yourself.
Oh, well, yeah.
There you go. So it's not that scary. It's really the people around, right?
It's the people around.
Yeah, I see.
And the fact that like you're labeled as a dancer, right? So then it's like, it's almost like there's an expectation of like, okay, what's gonna come out of you if you go out there and freestyle?
Now I get it. It's funny because I've seen you dance, not maybe as much as I can really give you a clear observation of it, but you don't have the same face expression when you freestyle and when you dance in a choreography and the performance. You're very much more natural when you freestyle.
When I freestyle.
Lots of faces and stuff, you know. like everybody who enjoy dancing, I guess. Yeah.
So you enjoy my freestyle?
Yeah, I mean, like, you're a good dancer, obviously.
Kevin's approval.
I have not that pretension of giving approval or anything. Yeah. Just ask questions. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost the train of my thoughts. Freestyle. So you, but for example, like if it's a cipher, you're not gonna jump in it. It's already stressing you out.
In my experience, more times than not, I will not jump in. It might depend on where I am and who I'm with. Will give me more of a feeling to do it. You know, again, it's that feeling of, where am I? Am I in a place where I just get to go and be free, or am I in a place where I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of people who know what I do, and I feel like there's an expectation?
Judge you,
yeah, is there going to be judgment? Is there? And then I'm judging myself, and then it's no longer a fun moment. It just becomes stressful.
That's not a pleasure anymore.
Yeah, it stops being pleasure. So yeah, I've done both. I've totally jumped in and felt great about it, and there have totally been times where I'm like, I'm good. I'm just gonna hang out on the sidelines. Do I wish that I could always just be totally free and just be like, I have no worries, just jump in? Yes. But admittedly, there are definitely times where I have held back out of the fear of some judgment. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. And then there are times where I just don't feel like it. There are times where I'm like, I'm just not, I just want to be in my own world right now. I don't want to have it be about an exhibition type thing.
Yeah, so it's funny, like, I've talked to dancers, and when you talk to them, you feel like there's a strong will to prove something to someone. I don't feel that when you talk about your dance. It sounds like it's really firmly for yourself, which is interesting. I had another question, I forgot. It's okay. Well, I'll stick to the freestyle. Not necessarily the freestyle, but when you oh yeah, I remember the question. Do you actually, like, after what I just said, I have the answer already, but I'll ask it anyway. I've talked to a lot of dancers that, dance was a passion and it became work. and it's difficult for them after to still find the pleasure. And like when they're not working, they don't want to dance.
Yeah.
Is it familiar to you?
I've had those moments for sure, and I'm sure I will still in my career. If you do the same thing over and over again, I've been doing some of the same stuff for a very long time, and I definitely, there are days where you show up and it is just work.
Yeah.
And you are just waiting for it to be done. Like, admittedly, and it is sad to say that sometimes, but it is a job, and just like anything else, you're gonna have days where you just kind of feel like you'd rather be doing something else, to be completely honest, or you've been doing this same show for X amount of time, or you're doing it for people who maybe don't appreciate it the way you would like to, and it does become a job, and it can, that's never necessarily a good feeling. I find you have to find ways to remember the good things about it, whether it's just drawing from the people that you are performing with, or just remembering your love for it. But you're definitely going to have those days. You're going to have those days where you're annoyed at the fact that you're doing what you love, but you barely make any money doing it, and it just becomes a stress. Like anything else, there's definitely its pros and cons, and I have absolutely been in that place where it has started to just be a job, and you find you lose the passion in it, or just like anywhere else where you're not doing it, and somebody be like, oh, you're a dancer, teach me something, and you're like, I don't want to do that right now. Like, that's not, no. I do feel like it's really important to tap into those things outside of the work, which is another thing where, sometimes doing things like taking classes or doing a style that you haven't done before. I had a talk with a friend of mine recently, same type of thing, where she recently just started making herself hop back into classes, but classes of stuff that she doesn't normally do. Just to kind of get yourself out of that mindset, or get yourself out of, because if it is something that you do all the time, like we said, like you get to the point where it can be like you feel like you need to prove something. You go to a class and you need to perform it well, and in this day and age too, like you go to class and they're always filming everything now, right, and putting it up, and it just becomes all of these like,
it's pressure.
It's pressure to just go to a class and do it well and be picked to be in the video and make sure that it looks good because it's going to go up on social media and this is what you do for a living, so being able to I do find it is good. Like I said, I was having a talk with my dancer friend who in the past month or so has been forcing herself to go take classes that she doesn't normally do, to kind of get herself out of that and reconnect with just the movement and the love of learning and the love of connecting with music and connecting with your body, and not having it be like, I'm supposed to be good at this type thing.
Okay, I have a good one here related to what you just said. There must be a lot of instant gratification as a dancer in your career, like when you perform, like you have this rush of feelings that is instantaneous. How do you balance, like do you identify the gratification that are building up on the more long term, and how do you balance it? Am I making myself clear? You know how, for example, okay, you said that teaching, for example, is something that is not instantaneous. Yeah. It's something that you start your class, you have 4 people, it's frustrating, you need to market it, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward 2 years later, you have 30 people constantly every week. Yeah. So that's something that you're proud of yourself for doing this, because you put the work and it finally got to something where you feel good about it. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about the opposite of instant gratification. And I mean, like, I believe that when you're like a balanced human being, you need to try to find a way to balance those two things. Like, you can't just live with like the hustle and then maybe in 2 years you'll feel good. You need to balance it out. But my question is, like, did you identify those longer gratification streams, and how do you balance it out? Sorry, it's a little
I'm hoping that I understand your question. Yeah, dance and performance and all that kind of stuff, it is very much like instant gratification for sure, like it can be when you are performing. And oh man, I wish I could remember some quote that I saw recently, something about, instant, basically dealing with instant success versus having to rush. Like, for instance, when I got out of university, the first few auditions that I did, I killed and I got them. And then I went through this period of time afterwards where like I was auditioning and nothing was happening. And in a way it almost made it more difficult, because you start off with like this rush of like, yeah, like obviously I'm doing great, I'm wanted, I'm great, and then having to deal with that constant pounding. And you do get I'm sure most people who do this get a rush from being on stage and, performing, and the applause and the lights and all of that. And then, as most people don't realize, you go to work the next day. As I will be doing later today, my Joe job, which is not, glitz and glam and all of that kind of stuff, which can be hard sometimes. I think for me, at this point, the fact that I'm still doing this in a way, even though sometimes you're like, you can be like, you feel like you're still living the same life that you've been living for X amount of time, you're like, how much progress am I really making? But at the same time, there are so many people who don't make it this long, doing their art form, doing what they want to do. I do kind of get gratification in the fact that I have stuck with it for this long, and at the end of the day, I do make a living, even if it's not doing completely just dance all of the time. I'm living by myself, I'm paying my bills, on occasion I eat out, I even take a trip once in a while. There's something to be said about that, and in certain circles, if you say my name, people will know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
Of course, Miranda Liverpool. Of course. So, that's... I can take pride in that, and I guess if I'm trying to understand what you're asking, that's a bit more of the long term. I didn't do, like, one big bang and then didn't work for 5 years. So it's the build-up of your name, the longer gratification.
Yeah, to be able to say, I'm continuing on doing this. It hasn't all been, you definitely have career highs, and some people, I've heard a lot of talk about this, like you're always just, in a way, you should always be striving for things, but you can also make yourself miserable.
It's a balance, right?
Continuously trying to, what do they say, like continuing to hit that high note or top, the last thing that you did.
It's like food, right? You eat something that takes a long time to break down, then you're not hungry all the time, but sometimes you need a little bit of energy, right?
Yeah. Finding the gratitude for what has happened is really important.
Do you find this rush that you talked about right before is addictive?
Probably. I think we've all got to be a little crazy to pick this lifestyle, really. I would say just like anything else, I think you're always going to be kind of, whatever in life gives you that, that kind of jolt is probably something that you're going to wind up being addicted to. Addiction can be a really dangerous thing, so hope that it's, in a healthy type of way. But yeah, I'm sure that, if I ever hit a point in my life where I'm no longer on stage, there's probably definitely going to be a part of me that really misses that.
Okay, I gotta talk about.
In the light.
Sorry, I gotta talk about this because, I know you're in Samba. I know a lot of you guys, Samba dancers, and there's this topic that comes back, and it's part of the life of dancers, especially for women. can we talk about how people see you
Yes.
as a dancer and when you're not?
When you're not.
Like this aura that it brings that is full of illusions and projections, and how it transforms people's actions.
Yeah. Well, especially in Samba and things like that. Any type of dance that really is kind of accentuating your form, your body, you know, the female form. In Samba especially, we're in sparkly bikinis and, you know, shaking our hips, and you know, you're not gonna lie, you're going out there and there is definitely, you know, there's a sexiness to it. There's, you know, and for sure, you definitely come across people who therefore see you in that moment. You are no longer a person. You are just an object. So we quite unfortunately encounter people who therefore feel like they have a right to say things to you, to touch you. I don't know. They assume that you are there for some other reason other than to entertain and show your art form. You know, and that, you know, that's an unfortunate part of the work, of the business, of the experience. And I don't think you ever totally are okay with it. You learn to deal with it. You learn to develop a thicker skin about it. It's like what women go through in their lives in general, but then just like up a level. You can be in really a state of vulnerability while you are doing these performances in a way. So you definitely do need to learn to find the strength in the art form for that, because you are putting yourself in a position to be seen quite differently than what you are. But yeah, so we do get sexualized. We do get, you know, people kind of think that you put yourself out there, so they have the right to act in ways that are not appropriate, which is not okay. Let's just put that out there. It's not okay.
Yeah.
Have I fully answered your question?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of things to talk about in this, like, and I know men can sexualize women for way less than that.
Yeah.
Anyways, so, but yeah, I just thought it was important to make. Can I turn here? Yeah.
Yes.
Very small. Yeah, I just thought that I'd mention it. Is it sometimes discouraging?
Yes. It can be extremely discouraging, just because you put, you know, as a dancer, as a professional dancer, so many of us, we have spent so many years training.
Yeah.
From when we were kids, and then for a lot of us in university, you put in a lot of time, effort, money into learning and developing these skills, and then you put it out there and people just, you know, they don't see any of that, and they just see the body and the face, and it can sometimes be extremely discouraging to feel like you put so much of yourself into something and people just reduce it down to its most lowest, you know, lowest form, and treat you like a low form of a being. It can be extremely discouraging, and you're kind of like, you can have moments where you're like, why am I putting myself in this position? I do all of this and it's not appreciated, and beyond that, it's taken to an entirely different place, and I am, you know, subject to being treated in a very degrading way. Which is why, again, you have to find a lot of security and be able in yourself and be able to tap into the essence of what these art forms really, really are. and just kind of hold on to that as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
It is very easy to be discouraged and to have the way people treat you, you know, make you second guess sometimes what you've chosen to do or how you are seen. Yeah, it just takes a lot of self-work to be able to hold on to the value that you know that you have, and just remember the skill that's involved, remember what the actual essence of what you do is, and hold on to it. There's no real easy answer. It's just it
can be tough.
It can be tough. It just comes with, you know.
So I'll finish on this, maybe to lift up your spirit a little. I brought, so it was like a week ago, you're the Red Hot Samba night. I brought a friend who came as my guest that night, and he was going through like a really rough time, like very, very rough year so far, and I told him to come, you know, put him on my guest list, whatever. And he came, and well, that night he told me he had a great time, but I saw him like a couple of days ago, and he said, you know, like that show really moved me. Like, despite the fact there's a lot of women like in in bikinis and everything, it's just like the energy of it really lifted me up. And I wasn't feeling super well. I was gonna cancel, but just because you invited me, I came, and it really made me happy that night.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So anyways.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that is definitely, you know, when you think about the reasons why you do some of this, some of the best feelings I've had are the people that come up to you afterwards, whatever shows that I've done, and it's the people that come up to you and say, that really moved me. I saw that show and it changed something in me. It changed my life. That spoke to me. The people who cry after you do a performance, when kids come up and give you a huge hug afterwards, like those are the things, those moments really, really stick with you. And all of the struggle and everything that comes with being an artist and being in this life, those are some of the things that just make it all worthwhile. It really is. Beyond the rush and the great feeling of performing, that feeling, that knowing that something you have done has literally touched somebody, possibly transformed them in a way, helped them get through a hard time, that's a completely different feeling that you can't touch. Like that's
well, on that note,
that's a why.
On that note, that's end of this podcast. But thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
That was great.
Thank you.
And your dates for your retreat, I'll put everything in the link below. But
Perfect.
so
yes.
March
1st to 8th, 2020 in Costa Rica. It's called Dance Break Retreats. You can look up the website, www.dancebreakretreats.com.
I'll share everything. And can't wait to see you on stage again. All right.
Every weekend.